Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. Panic, crypto panic, market sell-off. Who's buying this dip? Oh my goodness. I was talking to the folks on the Slack group saying, I'll be back. I'm going to go get some coffee, then I'll jump on a live stream. That was about $500 ago. 10 minutes later, price hits 8,100 on Coinbase. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get into the charts, talk about support, resistance. Oh, the carnage. Yes, indeed, my friends. It is Carnage Day today here on Crypto Land. We'll be doing the live stream as always, looking at the charts, seeing what's happening. I'll be honest, I'm actually buying some BTC here. For now, it's a little bit of a flip trade. Just going to see how far the bounce is, a little bit of an oversold bounce trade, and then we'll go from there. But, we're seeing some big breakdown from support after this descending triangle was forming. And here we are. Where do we go from here? There's a lot of reasons why people are saying, the hash rate's dropping, backed was a flop. Maybe it's just technical levels being taken out finally, the sub 9K level, all that good stuff. But hey, we'll be here. Let me get the link to this stream here real quick, and then we will get ready to post this here. Let me see, go to your stream, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so I've been out for a little bit. I've been out for about a week-ish. I did a video, I don't know, I think I did a last video last time. I didn't do a live stream, I did a video update. Had a little bit of a cold, and then just didn't do a whole lot this week. I mean, it's been flat. If you look at the price action here the last 2 weeks, it's been flattish, tight. And it's really just been a waiting game, breaking out of this consolidation. And, the bears had the upper hand. There was this downward consolidation. Price had already broken below the 100-day moving average. And so it was a slight, it could have gone either way, absolutely. But it was a slight, the bears had a slight lead. The sellers had a slight lead. And it was just kind of, the path of least resistance was down in this scenario, right? It was easier to knock this thing over the edge versus bust it up over that 11K resistance that had just kind of proven to be the wall here for a while. But we'll get into all that here. Let me post the link here, one sec here. And then we'll get to it. Okay. Yeah, so it's, what else? Let me see here. So what's going on? Who do we got in the house? I know it's kind of a midday for me. I was actually thinking, I'm going to take a break from the screens, go to the gym, and then I started getting the alerts on my phone, and I was going, whoa, and sure enough, pull up, and it was the SmackDown, and so I've been watching it here, and just, I'm starting to nibble. I had some money sitting on the sidelines just because, this price action here. Have done very few trades, to be honest with you, in the last several weeks. EOS caught this little bit of a move on the way up. Yesterday, Link had a nice move. It was a coin listing announcement. So that chart was just setting up. I had no idea that there was going to be a coin listing or anything, but the chart was just very bullish. So that was kind of a nice little easy breakout setup there. I actually came in from the USD side on Link. And then before that, look at that, right to resistance. Isn't that amazing how that happens? Almost, so often you see the price hit a point in the charts almost exactly, and then, man, that's an ugly reversal. And then other than that, last week caught a pretty decent short on Ripple. Man, I'm wishing I would have just held on to the short because I was, we had this kind of little parabolic move. Remember alt season? Wasn't alt season great? That 48-hour alt season we had last week. But we had that little bit of a rally, and I saw this kind of overextension, and I thought, this is going to be a nice little short-term short, just kind of a quick flip. And man, it just continues to grind down here. Quick reversal. Stellar Lumens did the same thing. Spike and drop. And so just pretty wild action out there in crypto land, no doubt. Just across the space, a lot of turbulence. Look at that. ETH, man, 220 down to 160s, just like that. My goodness. Okay, so we'll certainly go through all of this here. and in more detail here, and I'll just kind of share my thoughts. So we got Minnesota in the house. How do you guys say it out there? Minnesota? Minnesota, sorry. I shouldn't be mean. I actually have some friends in Minnesota. I've been out there quite a few times. And unfortunately, almost all the times I've been to Minnesota has been in the winter. Last time I was out there was like January, mid-January. It was brutal, especially for me, desert rat, you know, just not used to that kind of cold. All right, here, so let me go to the link here. Get to the charts one sec here. Kuwait City. Got Latvia in the house. Mini Snowtow, yeah, no kidding. Let's see here. Tennessee, all right. I love Tennessee. Nashville. All right, so let's see here. Looks like we got the links posted. Boom, boom. And we are ready to rock and roll, my friends. Cool. All right, so let's see here. Going to the big name first, we will start with BTC here. And of course, I mean, there's a lot of news. There's a lot of reasons why. As far as the whole hash rate thing just kind of suddenly dropping, to be honest with you, I don't follow that very close. So I am certainly not smart enough to know, you know, what the implications of that could be. You know, is that a big enough drop to cause some vulnerability? I don't think so. We've seen that before. We saw some hash rates drops during the, Bitcoin Cash forks and all that stuff. It's certainly getting a lot of attention just because it's such a significant drop. But I don't personally think that's the reason why we're seeing the little bit of a dump that we're seeing here right now. I think it's a little bit of a combination of things. Maybe there was a run up into backed. At the end of the day, there was just a big technical breach. I mean, it was just a consolidation descending triangle wedge that was ripe for the cracking, and we saw it happening here. We also were consolidating into this period here. Let me go to the weekly chart. This will be a little bit cleaner here. I'll take off these fib levels and support levels, and we will draw it fresh on the stream so you guys can understand my mess there. But, there was this big consolidation heading into October, heading into Q4, after a huge run-up, right? Q1, Q2, we've been talking about this for a while, multi-month run-up. And while, yes, it could have gone either way, we could have just as easily broken to the upside, cleared some of that downtrend resistance, and started to take off. It was just a little bit easier to get that last shakeout, right? And I've been talking about the potential for this shakeout just because, I mean, markets just tend to do that in general, right? There's clear support level. There's a clear level where the stops are going to be smacked if it gets hit. There's probably some bigger money wanting to buy a little bit lower and all that good stuff. And so it's just a little bit easier. We were looking at this kind of ABC correction pattern that was happening here, this ABCD, right? If you look at this drop here, this little rally, and, I was watching for the potential of a new lower low happening on this takeout. Obviously, last week we hadn't seen that yet. We're finally seeing that play out now. So we've got the shakeout. We've finally consolidated. We are heading into Q4. There were some potential ETF reviews on the table. Those were taken off the table. So that took a little bit of bullishness off because that would have been quite the catalyst if, kind of this consolidation was happening right as those ETFs were being reviewed. If there was some surprise approval or something, that would have been an amazing breakout from that consolidation. But look at how much we're bouncing up and down. Let's zoom in real quick here. This price is moving all over the place. This is the 5-minute chart here, just bouncing all over the place here. So if you're just joining, yes, I did buy the dip here a little bit. Was watching this morning thinking, we're right at support, 9,300. Maybe I'll pick some up. But I thought, nope, I'm just going to wait. Let's see if this breaks finally. And it finally did break here. But, we were kind of heading into that downtrend. So going back to the weekly chart here, a couple of levels that I was watching on the way down here. If we do a Fibonacci retracement analysis, starting from the December lows to the peak that we had here in June, if you look at the 382 level, most of this consolidation happened right around that 382 level, which is basically around 9,800. And then the 50% retracement is basically 8,500 from that lows. There was a couple of support levels, price support levels that I was watching. First was that 8,800 level, which that was a long time level that many traders were looking for, a futures gap fill. Personally, I don't follow the whole futures gap fill a whole lot, but nonetheless, it was a valid level. A lot of people were watching. Obviously, that's been filled. And then if you look at just pure price support level, that last May, June support that was established here right around that 7,500 level was really the next level down below that as far as strong support level on the way down. That happened to correspond with the 618, almost there. It's about 7,300 here, 7,500. And so this zone in between was kind of the first two levels I was watching. If you dial it in a little bit closer, let's go to the daily chart. See what we're looking at. We're basically right smack in the middle right now. Now, if we did the Fibonacci retracement analysis, not from the December lows, but from the breakout day, which really was the start of the impulse move, as they call it, right? To the, because this was just kind of flat consolidation. Yes, you can say that was the extreme low, but that wasn't really an impulse move, right? It wasn't something that kicked off a big rally. It went sideways for several more months. But this breakout, the breakout that happened back here on April 1st, that really took price way out on massive volume, that was really the start of the big run up. And so if we did the fib analysis from that day to the peak, you can see that the 618 retracement now goes to about 78, 7,900, which lines up pretty closely with this horizontal price support. And so this zone here is a strong support level that I do want to see held. Below that just looks really ugly. So we want to see price hold around that 7,800 if we do see a dip. The fact that we've shaken down below 9K, I know it's bearish, and if you're long crypto and all that, you certainly don't want to hear this, but I was kind of looking for that shakeout. For me, it would have been a little bit more of a reset, right? A little bit, not stronger, but a little bit longer term bullish if we would have had this kind of shakeout that is followed by a breakout. We've not yet seen that, but if this shakeout holds and starts to take out to this level here in the coming weeks, then that turns out to be a very positive thing because it kind of clears the deck. It kind of resets some things. If you look at the daily RSI prior to today, was sitting right around 36 or 36, 40-ish. We hadn't quite seen this oversold daily RSI for a long time. The last time we saw a sub 30 RSI on the Bitcoin daily chart was way back here in December of 2018 when we were having that sell-off, that November, December sell-off. That was really the last time we saw RSI dip back below that. And since then, it hadn't retraced down that far. So this is a pretty good reset in terms of some of that overbought condition that we had. Weekly RSI certainly has come in quite a bit. Certainly the lower time frames are very extremely stretched to the downside, which, when you look at the combination of everything, the daily being stretched, the 4 hour, the 1 hour, all that, it was, for me, a good risk reward kind of opportunity for a little bit of a bounce trade. We'll see where it goes. Obviously I'm hoping that support holds here around that 7Ks level, 8K level. If 8K is not breached, even better. But that's a lot of volume. That feels like a little bit of a washout. We'll see if that materializes into anything more than just a multi-hour bounce here. So that's it on the BTC side here. What did I do, Herman? What did I do to BTC, right? Oh man, people have lost faith in crypto since Binance US News. I don't know if that's the reason, but certainly the enthusiasm, the uber bullishness in the crypto space have absolutely come off. There's not this kind of invest with abandon that we've seen in the past, right? Certainly people are a lot smarter. Most of the people in the crypto space now have felt the pain and the burn from the pullback that we saw in 2018. So people aren't just willing to just blindly hodl and buy every coin that has a rumor of an announcement of this or that. I mean, people are just a little bit smarter now. And yeah, regulation's a much stronger factor now. And so there's just a lot of reasons to to just move slower, right, in the space when it comes to some of these moves. You know, do your homework, do your diligence, all that. At the end of the day, I still think Bitcoin long term is, you know, is a good option. Many of the other alts, right, will they be around long term? It's just hard to say. But you know, some of the big names I think are certainly gonna weather the storm and continue higher. So should you buy this dip, right? That's what everyone's wondering. Is like, okay, we've had this dip. I mean, if you guys were watching this and on the sidelines going from, you know, 10 to 14K in, you know, a couple of days, you know, hoping for 8,700 or 7,000, 8,000 was really what, you know, what everybody wanted to see. We've seen the grind lower since then. And so what do you do now, right? Now do you buy this dip, or do you just wait for price to recover? Let me see what this thing here does. This has pretty much been neutral. So the Bitcoin daily strategy, it is oscillator based. So during these sideways periods, I give it a little less weight than when the market's trending. But back here, you know, it issued a buy signal here, and then it went neutral here, then another buy, and then neutral. And it's pretty much been sitting neutral, i.e. cash, not long, not short, just neutral, since September 17. And so we're seeing this finally breaking down. If it would have broken over that, you know, 10.5 level, that would have been very positive. It would have also started to clear some of that downtrend resistance. Obviously, that didn't happen. And so here we go, seeing this little bit of a breakdown. So looking like a nice little bounce here. Let's go to that hourly chart here, popping off the lows. Look at that volume on that big spike down. Just a lot of volatility here. If you go to that short time frame, bouncing all over the place here. So here's the 5-minute chart on BTC here. Just since I started this stream here, we're seeing price. Look at that. In 3 candles, it went up 10% on the 5-minute chart. So if you're trading, if you're using margin, those are nice little quick moves. But everything else in between, just wild times here in the crypto markets here. Getting that feeling that the bear market is never ending, which is a good contrarian indicator. Yeah, that is, you know, when you start to feel that over bearishness, like, oh, here it comes again, everybody's bearish again. Oftentimes that could certainly be a good contrarian, just like we saw last 2 weeks ago when Ethereum was declared dead, and then we had a little bit of a rally. But look at this move today. Wow, just completely undid the strong rally that we saw here. And I mean, in one day, he gave back about the equivalent of that entire move up, and not even one day, in about 2 hours, right? And it's like a down 25% on the day. My goodness. Ethereum got dumped here pretty hard in about 2 hours, down about 20%. The carnage is the same across the board, so we'll just quickly cycle through some of these names here. But before I move off of Ethereum, looking at ETH, BTC, you know, there's some big attempts here to kind of buck the BTC trend, so I'm definitely keeping an eye on it here. The volume here on this last hourly candle was very strong and looking like it wants to recover here from this bounce. Almost undid it. It would have been nice if it would have closed above that prior red candle, but it's trying to. One thing I'm going to watch here, though, is this 10 EMA. Price is still being contained below this 10 EMA on the hourlies. If it can start to recover and bounce above that, I think that'll be a positive first sign for ETH BTC here, but no doubt the USD charts are looking pretty horrid considering you know, the move we had just a couple days ago. You'd love to stay, but you gotta go pick up a fridge. Let's see here. So that's ETH BTC here. Looking at some of these other names, my goodness. Long-term daily charts here. Interesting that they bounced right up to that 100-day moving average. Might be hard to see it here on my charts here. I'll change the color of that real quick here. But if you go to the 100-day right there, that's the line that we saw a little bit of bounces into here. So real interesting. I use a little bit shorter one. Generally on the alts, I'll use a 50-day. But on the BTC, I'll use a longer one here. So there's Litecoin. Some of you guys are asking about Litecoin. And looking at this here, yesterday or 2 days ago, it was forming a little bit of a falling wedge. Certainly a breakout candidate. And then it just quickly got rejected here on a breakout attempt. So you saw this attempt here on Litecoin. Nice little spike above, and then just no follow through. And amazing smackdown on Litecoin. Most of the alts didn't have quite the smackdown that day, but this one just suffered a big wick down. Hasn't quite recovered, just kind of gone sideways since then. So just really odd price action on some of these alts here, but I mean, just look at the volatility here, just big wicks up and down. Not sure what to make of that. As far as, you know, alts and all that goes, I'm not quite ready to swoop and scoop just yet. For me, I'm just sticking with the BTC side when I'm buying the dip here. And then I'll look at the BTC alt pairs. And if some of those start working like they're breaking out or recovering versus Bitcoin, then I'll flip into some of those from the Bitcoin side. But for now, on the USD side, I'm just going to stick with BTC as far as taking a little bit of a nibble here. But look at the disparity we're seeing here. Coinbase, 8,700. Bitstamp, 8,300. Binance, 8,200. What's up with that? Is there something going on with Coinbase here? I've noticed earlier, too, it was the opposite. I was looking at Coinbase, and it was down to around 8,600, and Tether and some of the other exchanges like Kraken, XBT, they were about $150 higher, and now it's the opposite. So it's just real interesting to see what's going on here with these exchanges, just kind of all over the place here. Let's go look at the Tether chart here real quick. Sometimes the USD Tether. Oh yeah, look at that. So this is the USD Tether / USD chart. And so it just kind of shows you, and it's not uncommon to see some of these spikes in Tether when there's a flight out of Bitcoin just because Tether's being bought up, so you tend to see a little bit of a premium. It's not a huge premium right now. It's not even a 1% premium just yet, but supposed to be, supposed to remain in parity here, but you're seeing quite a little bit of a spike there. Maybe that's causing the disparity on the exchanges, but Bitstamp's USD, so I'm not sure why Bitstamp is so far off from Coinbase. Generally, those are pretty close. So 8,400, 8,300, or 8,600, depending on what you're looking at here. But my goodness, things are just flying all over the place here. So let's just cycle through some of these names here, starting from the top. Alphabetical order on my watch list. There's no rhyme or reason here as far as which the order. We're just going to go down the list here real quick here, and then we'll deep dive some of these here. Let me turn off some of these indicators so it looks a little bit cleaner. But on most of these charts, I would expect that daily RSI is hitting some pretty extreme lows here. It feels like a big washout. All right, so looking at Cardano, the smackdown in Cardano, the daily chart here was actually looking positive for about 48 hours during the last amazing alt season we had, and just a quick spike and then just a massive sell-off and just breaking support here, making a new low as price is really tanking here. We'll look at the BTC pairs here shortly. I'm going to cycle through some of these dollar pairs. There's Cosmos, or there's Algo, excuse me. That's not Cosmos, that's Algo. Rough. There's Atom there. There's Cosmos. Quite the smackdown. Interesting that went right to resistance here too. So if you look at that horizontal price resistance, prior rally, that's where it ended. Almost fully retracing that. Looking at Bitcoin Cash USD here, breaking that support level here, making a new relative low, breaking that 260 level here, and looking like next support, which is not really a strong level of support, is right around 230s, which is right where that wick kind of touched here earlier. And then below that, you got a big vacuum below that going down to around the 160s. That was that quick 2-day spike that pushed it up. So if you're watching the Bitcoin Cash, this is where you want to see it hold. Binance Coin, oh my goodness, $16. Once it broke that $25 support level, good night. Binance Coin hit $14.50 earlier. Wow. Holy moly. Hey, Jake in the house here. Looking at Bitcoin, we've already covered that. We'll cycle back to that here. It's just interesting to see the big price disparity on the Bitcoin chart. Dash, $69,000 for a Dash masternode. 70,000. EOS back down to 260 after a little bit of a rally. It was a nice rally. One of the stronger names off of the lows. Again, hit the first upside target here. So when I set my targets, I'm always just looking at price support resistance. That's always the number one target. Number two is, maybe some retracement levels or some sort of maybe a moving average or, something indicator based, but price is always first. And so you see here, looking left, anywhere from basically 407 to around 425 was that, that broader range. It went almost to the penny right to around 424, and then just quick rollover and just giving back quite a bit. I mean, EOS, my goodness. 30 at the lows, 34% down on the day. Wow. Holy moly. ETH. Looking at the ETH smack down here, coming right back to the lows, undercutting briefly, but trying to find some support around that 160s level here on the ETH chart. But if we zoom out here, let's go to the ETH weekly chart here. This is the USD pair. It did make a new relative low compared to the December low, rallying high, just like many other names, fully retracing. How far of a retracement is this? Curious to see what that lines up with, if anything. Where's my fib tool? Going peak to peak. It's already undercut the 618. So if you discount that to wick, which you probably shouldn't, that's 618 there, but I would include the wick just because that was a spike, which also corresponded with this prior level back here. And so it's already undercut 618. So that's a pretty deep retracement on ETH already. What else we got here? Icon, looking at the ICX chart here. This is USD pairs. I'll go over the BTC side here quickly. But looking at Icon, no love. IOTA, giving back the entire move. IOTA had a strong move too off the lows. A lot of volume coming in, giving that back up. Link, all over the place here today. Quick rally earlier on some news. Quick spike lower. Starting to form a little bit of a Darth Maul saber there with the spike down to the first support at 145. High here around 205, just all over the place. Litecoin breaking some long-term support here around that $60 mark. Not looking too positive. There's Litecoin. Here's Matic. Neo. $7 Neo. No love. There's one. Yikes. Ontology giving it up. Man. Pretty much the same chart on all these. Quantum. Oh my goodness. Quantum down to $1.45. Tron. Bouncing right back to resistance. So here's another good example. If you look at the price level here, like look left, prior resistance there. This recent rally basically double topped right at that point. If you zoom in here on the 4-hour chart, you can see this first spike, pulled back, tried to get going, was unable to breach. Once it rolled over, that's a big sell signal there generally, especially if it starts to undercut this prior support. I'm betting there was a big bearish divergence if we looked at the RSI on this. Yeah, there was. So first spike right into resistance, second spike lower. I guess it's not a huge divergence because if price would have actually gone much higher and RSI wouldn't have caught up, then much bigger of a divergence. But nonetheless, there was some signs of slowing down there, and then of course rolling over. What else we got here? VeChain, Stellar Lumens. Man, and Stellar, what a move Stellar had. Big spike up 50% and giving all that back and some here today. Monero, no love for Monero. There's Ripple, XRP. I closed out my short way too soon. I'm not complaining. It was a nice quick trade. There's Zcash. So who's buying the dip? All right, so what are we going to buy on the dip day? What are we buying? 0x. What a move 0x had. If you were right in that, I hope you banked a little bit of that because 0x was up 60% before kind of giving back some. And of course, I mean, when BTC does this, as we know, there are very few places to hide. I mean, it's pretty rare when an alt outperforms on a day like this. It's just really rare. So generally, just because of the correlation in the space is tremendously high. I mean, they just move in schools, right? Like we saw last week, things were moving, everything was moving up together, some more than others, but things move down, everything gets smacked down today. I don't know if there was anything. Do you guys know of any specific news? I mean, I was on Twitter and some of the other media outlets before the stream. I didn't catch anything that just really stood out as far as that was the reason. Was there a Trump tweet, an SEC tweet, something? I'm not sure. I didn't see it. There was a big technical break for sure. The chart was setting up on a big descending triangle, if you want to call it that. Let's go to the Coinbase chart here that I've got marked up. Let me clear some of this again for you guys. This chart was basically a chart I was posting quite a bit here in the Slack group, just watching this broader chart play out. 9,300 was the support. This downtrend line was the first kind of early indicator, but really from a horizontal resistance level, I wanted to see it take out that 11K. If it did, that would have looked really positive. And so we were just bouncing in between here for half of August and all of September basically, and bouncing here. It was just getting really tight. It was a matter of time, right? Are we going to break up? Are we going to break down? Yeah, that was the back thing, right? That was a major flop. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people were waiting on backed, but I don't know if that was, I don't know. I mean, I personally wasn't as excited about backed as many people were, I guess. So to me, it was like, if it succeeds, great. If it flops, who cares, right? I don't know if that's the reason for the sell-off. I know there's articles out there that are saying, oh, it's because of the back disappointment. The biggest thing that's kind of spooking people right now is the hash rate drop that we saw here a couple days ago or yesterday. Kind of unexplained. So who knows? I'm not sure if there's any major one news item that's causing this, unless it's yet to come out, which a lot of times you see that, right? Price action first and the news shows up. So who knows? At the end of the day, I'm just watching the charts. I do pay attention to the news, but mostly it's the charts here. So looking at the alerts, there's not going to be anything on the watch list, I'm guessing. IOTA was on the watch list earlier, so was Chainlink, but at this point, blah. Most all the alerts are negative alerts here on the way down. This thing has been at weak for quite some time, but oh my goodness, I have not seen this in a long time. Triple zeros. Zeros across the board. Wow. It's kind of been signaling weak for several days now, but it's a sideways market. It could have gone up or down, but man, very oversold conditions. All the alerts right now are just basically oversold long-term, oversold short-term. So just all oversold stuff here. All right, so let's go to the BTC chart, see if there's anything outperforming on the way up here. Looking at some of these charts, I'm going to go to the shorter-term time frames here. We'll start with the 4-hour charts. I'll take off the RSI and just look at the charts here quickly. There's ARC underperforming. And so this is a BTC chart. So if it's green here on the hourly candles or the 4-hour candles, that means it's outperforming on the way up here. Is it time to buy Bitcoin? Well, for me, this is a good enough dip to buy into. So I did start buying here today. I was watching the charts. It was looking like a potential buy at 9,300, but I was like, nah, just a descending triangle. Let's just wait. If it breaks out and I miss it, no big deal. If it breaks down, I'll start buying. And it broke down, obviously. So I'm certainly picking some up here. Is it a long-term buy? Who knows? For me, at least for now, it's going to be a little bit of a trade. We'll see where it goes here. Doing a leverage long. There you go. So there's BAT. Are we seeing any divergence here on BAT? Slight divergence on the MACD histogram here on this latest dip. So that's positive there. Trying to buck the trend here. If BAT can get back above this level, might start outperforming Bitcoin again here after pulling in from this prior run up it had. 1-2 legs down already. I want to see it take it out. Obviously, if it makes a higher high, that's going to be the interesting thing to watch. So I'm going to drop an alert here and see if I can keep an eye on that guy. BCH versus Bitcoin, no love there. BCH, BTC here on Coinbase. Look at this. Oh my goodness, just all over the place. This is Binance. This is Coinbase. I don't know what's going on there. Binance Coin versus Bitcoin. That's just not looking pretty here on this 4-hour chart. Definitely oversold near term. Daily chart, not quite extreme oversold. I don't like the USD chart there, so I'm going to wait on that guy here. We'll skip this guy. BitTorrent, Dash. There's Decred, too thin for me to look at. There's Elf. I still have Elf on my watch list. Look how flat that is. Hey, that's actually holding up relatively well versus BTC. Engine, EOS. Sheesh. EOS might be a knife catch by the dip right in front of this this line here, and if it breaks, then get out of the way. But wow, EOS versus Bitcoin. The smackening. ETH Classic. I'll pass. ETH. I'm watching this one here on the shorter time frames. If we go to, again, there's the hourlies. It was trying to take out, you know, the prior candle, made a big bullish engulfing on some massive volume. We'll see if it actually follows through to the upside here. I'll stick to the 1 hours here real quick here. ICX. There's IOTA holding up versus BTC here. Already making some new hourly highs versus yesterday's here. So that's definitely one to watch here in terms of outperformance here. I'm going to clear some of these other guys here. Don't care for any of these right now. I'll keep BAT, keep IOTA. How's that 4 hour chart look? IOTA held up so far. Clear level of support to be watching here now on IOTA. Definitely holding up. Still above the 10 EMA. 10 EMA still above the 22. Volume's holding up. Interesting. Link, you know, definitely worth still watching here. I think this setup was nice on the breakout. Obviously, it got hit hard on some of the news, but versus Bitcoin, this is still technically in play. I came in from the USD side yesterday. It was a quick trade. Banked it already, but I'm going to keep an eye on it here. If it holds this support on this pullback, it might be worth watching here. I'll keep an eye on that guy. Link, Lisk, blah. There's Litecoin. Litecoin just looks ugly. Charlie Lee apparently still had some Litecoin to sell, and he dumped it. I'm kidding. Kidding. There's Mana, Neo, Misego. Gone. Ontology. I'm just quickly cycling through some of this here. There's Raven. Breaking some support there. Theta. Tron trying to bounce back here on the hourly. If it can take out, if it can recover, a lot of these names, if they can quickly bounce back and undo that prior big red candle on the BTC pairs, would be positive. So until that happens, probably nothing to do. I'm going to keep an eye on that one. WAN Chain, Waves, Walton, a lot of names from yesteryear. NEM, oh my god, who still watches NEM? NEM, is that even still a project? NEM, Stellar, giving up the ghost. Interesting action here at the lows with Stellar. A lot of volume coming in here on this spike. But again, on the hourlies, probably want to wait till this guy starts getting taken out there on the upside. We'll see if it can turn into anything significant. I'll keep an eye on Stellar. It's been in play recently, that's why. Monero, XRP. Quite the spike on the XRP. Let me go to a different exchange here, just because some of the exchange on Binance is looking interesting here. XRP, BTC on Polo. Pretty similar action there. Okay. And there's Coinbase. I'll keep an eye on XRP. What else? And that's it. Cardano. So back to the top. Doge. Yeah, and then, you know, we can always look at the really small cap names, and at that, you know, when it's small cap land, there's I know Doge is not small cap, but when there's small micro cap names, then a lot of those names don't really care about the market, generally speaking. There's pumps all over the place here. Bitcoin, still seeing some carnage here, some interesting disparity here showing up on some of these exchanges. It's starting to narrow, but for a little bit here when we were watching this, they were all over the place here. Starting to get pretty close again. So we got 84.40, 84.20, 84.20. So pretty close here on some of these again, kind of narrowing back out. We'll see if this bounces. We'll see if the carnage undoes itself, or if this is the beginning of a bigger move down. What do you guys think? Beginning of a big move down, or the end of the move? You know, this first level here, basically 8,800 down to 8,500 was really that first level I was watching, and then below that, you know, you're looking at down here, which lines up with some fib levels, which I covered at the start of the stream here. And so we're kind of just right smack in the middle between some of these key levels, so might not be a bad time to nibble a little bit here. See where we go. All right, so any other names you guys want to look at here? End of the move, whale dumping. Yeah, that weekly chart's always interesting. So what I was watching on this weekly chart here, let me clear the markups real quick here. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how this weekly chart recovers. I mean, we're still very early on in this week, and there's a lot of time left, so it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. But a couple of things to note here. Obviously, the declining volume is a big one, right? During this consolidation, things were getting narrow. Declining volume will generally, once it starts hitting a little bit of a low point, it precedes a big move, especially with, you know, the volatility drying up like we saw here multiple weeks in a row, just very tight range, generally speaking. And so we're due for a move, especially with the descending trend line, 9,300 support. The 22 EMA was catching up here right at 9,300, was basically right at that long-term support that we were seeing for the last couple of months. I guess the last couple of months, basically since June. And here we are breaking down below that. So it's going to be interesting to see if at the end of the week, right, over the weekend, how does this current candle look? Is it going to be a big wick, a big tail? I mean, the most bullish scenario would be this candle turns green, which means price would have to get back over 10,100, and that would be outrageously bullish if you saw a big shakeout followed by a rally attempt. I'm not so sure it's going to be that strong, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out here. You know, on the short term, generally what I start to look for is bounces into some of these moving averages or sideways action as the moving average catches up. So even if we start to bounce here, the first big test now on the way up is going to be that support that broke down around 9,300, and probably below that as some of the moving averages catch up. So in and around that 9,200 to maybe at the most 9,400, 9,500, that's going to be the first resistance level on the way up here if we start to get a little bit of a bounce here. I did enter some positions here on this dip, so we'll see if that plays out in my favor, but at that point I'll start to make an assessment to see if we see any strength going into that here. Let's see here. What about some good news in crypto? Yeah, that's a good point. You know, the space is continuing to develop, continue to be adopted. I think there's a lot of good news out there. It's interesting though because like I said, right, Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin's here to stay, right? Bitcoin's kind of the king crypto, the big dog. Obviously, we haven't looked at the coin market cap, but takes a predominant percentage of the overall crypto space and probably higher than what's listed on coin market cap, just because once you start to factor in things like liquidity and, you know, massive supply coins that don't trade a lot, it certainly will skew the numbers. So I think that's going to be a factor. But there will be other cryptos that are not yet tradable or available that will come on the scene and will likely be competition, will likely be a threat, however you want to say it, to some of the existing names. And I don't think all of the names out there are going to stand the test of time. There's just going to be, you know, there's going to be adoption, yes. There's going to be the killer app that ultimately takes crypto to the masses. But does that translate into all these other small cap coins rally? We see another altcoin markets. You know, I think you got to be a little bit more judicious in terms of which names you stack and which names you just kind of hold for the longer term. And even projects that are good projects that actually have updates to their code repositories and are actually working on a real product, even some of those might not make it, right? Just because there's just the nature of the marketplace, right? What are users going to adopt? Who has the better marketing? Who has the better team? Partnerships, all that good stuff. But I think Bitcoin's certainly one of those. I think it's become more of a, you know, its own asset class in a way where, you know, kind of like gold or whatever, right? Where it's just kind of its own. And some of these other ones are still in the startup category, and it's yet to be seen who will survive over the long run there. But from a trading perspective, there's still going to be a lot of opportunity, I think, to capitalize on some of that here. SEC had a second meeting on Libra today. That's going to be interesting to see what other cryptos come out, right? So you've got Libra, obviously. We have some of the major banks already setting up private blockchains to kind of transact between each other. Stock exchanges setting up blockchains for some of that. And then, of course, there's, you know, excuse me while I barf a little, but there's like Fed coin and the European central banks talking about, the IMF talking about a crypto. And of course, that's the ugly side of crypto that all the crypto enthusiasts never talk about, right? There's like this big push about, oh, let's get adoption and yay, and people are making this legitimate. And guys, I think we're way past the point of this is legitimate. Just because, my mom and my grandpa don't use crypto day to day doesn't mean it's already reached that level of mass awareness and legitimacy. I think we've passed that point. Bitcoin is a household name. Its reputation is still, yes, very gray, right? Some people are like, oh, Bitcoin, right? Isn't that the internet money used for illegal activity? And you still see a lot of that. But it's, amongst the financial institutions, amongst the, big tech companies, it's not that anymore, right? People are seeing this as, hey, this is an interesting technology. It's a viable asset. It's got a lot of that going for it, right? I mean, we're already talking about ETFs, and there's ETF proposals, and the SEC is reviewing it. So we're way past the point of, is this even a legitimate thing? We're past that, right? But the point I'm saying is, it's not mass adopted in terms of my mom and my grandma and everybody paying with crypto on their phones. But the part that people don't like to talk about is what happens when the US or the Fed or the IMF roll out their coin that suddenly becomes mandatory. Or even Libra, for example, right? And that's the part that scares me, that I don't think the broader crypto community thinks about very much. But it's the whole fact that blockchain and cryptocurrencies do take away privacy, right? And we remember when Bitcoin was first starting off, and one of the mantras was, it's like, be your own banker and screw the Fed and all that good stuff. But the part that's, the whole decentralized utopia doesn't think about is the privacy aspects of it. The fact that with a cryptocurrency, you can now, your money tells a story, right? It now tells you where it's been, who it's come from, where it's gone to, what you bought with it, how long you held it, all that good stuff. And things like Libra and IMF coin and Fed coin are going to put a lot of power and a lot of information in the hands of very centralized entities. And that's the power of the blockchain. And that's what blockchain is going to provide for a lot of these, these big institutions, whether you like it or not. And it's going to be the reverse of one day we're going to be like celebrating crypto, and the next it's going to be like, oh, dang. You mean you can see and track everything I do, and you can shut off my accounts and blacklist my wallet address? Yikes. So that's the part that it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. But yeah, there's privacy coins and all that, and you've already seen a little bit of a war on privacy coins, right? So with certain exchanges saying, well, you can't use all the features of the privacy coin, and we're not going to list certain privacy coins, and that's because the threat of that, right? And I get it, right? The threat of money laundering and terrorist activities and blah 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 blah. I get all that, but there's a balance. There's a balance. So there you have it. Yeah, and I agree. None of those are true cryptos. They're digital fiats. But if they do eventually become cryptos, is what I'm saying, right? They will be, they'll be cryptos in the sense of traceability, in the sense of being able to monitor. Will they be cryptos in the sense of, limited supply, mineable, all that stuff? No, probably not, right? They're still going to have the ability to print and issue new tokens as needed. I can't imagine any government willingly, any central bank willingly giving up that ability. Just no way. All right, so where we at with Bitcoin? No bounce yet here. Looking at the carnage, a lot of wicks to the upside. Bounces have been sold into at this point. Looking at that 5-minute chart here on Coinbase, there was even a gap here. Interesting there, but the quick sell-off, if you missed it, we broke 9,300 and very quickly dropped down to around 8,200. Seeing some bounce action now, hitting some extreme oversold levels on the shorter time frames, definitely hitting some oversold conditions on the daily chart, but doesn't mean it's the bottom. We'll go take a look at that BCHSV, huh? There's a name I don't look at very much. On what exchange are you watching it? Because this is Polo here. Interesting. That's the BTC pair. $87. All right. So, not a, oh, on Hubi, okay. Not a whole lot of names that are other than BTC that I'm looking at right now. Matic, man, Matic's still holding up. Still range bound, but surprisingly holding up well versus Bitcoin at least. So Matic's on the list. Binance Coin took it off the USD list. Tron, I'm just watching that for a breakout, but there's nothing positive there. EOS just crazy oversold, down 27% versus Bitcoin, taking Ontology off, taking Raven off. I've got BAT on the watch list here. Watching this one hold up, seeing if it can take out this little near-term resistance there. Take this guy off here. IOTA was holding up well. See if it continues to hold up. And then Link has had a wild day today here. This was really the pattern I was watching yesterday on Link, and so caught this a little bit of a move here. It was a quick trade, but man, what a shakeout that was. And then Link BTC still holding up, still above the breakout point on that ascending triangle base here on that 4-hour chart. So definitely worth keeping an eye on to see if it gets any follow through. But other than that, not a whole lot on my list right now. Okay, let's see here. I'm looking at the comments to see if there's anything else I've missed, but if not, I'm thinking we will call it a stream and see how this carnage continues throughout the day here. Definitely will keep an eye on this thing. Things are hitting the fan for sure. Will it hit 6K? Well, I wish I could give you a definitive answer to that. If I had to guess, and this is me guessing, I'm going to say no. That's my guess. But could it? I mean, it certainly could. I mean, is it going to retest this big breakout point back here? That'd be extremely bearish. Let's just put it that way. If it retraced that far, I'm in the no camp. I was in the yes camp as far as we were going to break 9K. As you guys recall, I was looking at this consolidation. Yes, it could have gone either way, but I thought there's a good chance we get the shakeout. Now that we've seen that, how far do we go? I'm looking at this as the next stop, right? If it breaks that, then we got to look at the next level down. But, the mid 7Ks, 7,500 is kind of the next strong support level that I'm watching. And then basically where we're at now, so anything in between is kind of the zone. If you look at the daily RSI, it's already down to 21. See where it goes here. Where would you call the last swing low? Yeah, on the fib retrace, that's a good question, and I covered it briefly here at the beginning. Generally, I will use the impulse move, right? So the start of the breakout here, so basically 4,100 to the top of the swing. So we're almost at the 618, which is around 7,800. But even if you use the December lows, which is, about $1,000 more, it doesn't change it that much, right? So you go from like 7,800 to 7,300 as your 618. 50% is right where price is at now, around 8,500. And so, if you take this approach, you're right at 50% now. This is kind of the strong retrace here. We've come back 50% from the December lows. Next major level is 618, which also happens to line up well with, with this little bit support. So, that mid to low 7Ks is ideally where you want to see price hold if it continues to pull back. Where's the 20K Bitcoin? Nope, I don't think we're going to get it. So remember when we were doing projections for the end of the year? And of course, my projection was just a wild guess. But my projection was 13.5 was the high I thought we would see in 2019. And we came pretty close. Came to almost 14. It was 13.8. And that was a wild guess. There was some good retracement levels to be looking at as far as the entire move up. Was that the end of the move? Man, I hope not. But if you looked at the peak that we saw back in December of 17 to the lows that we saw in December of 18, and you do a fib retracement on the bounce, the 618 puts you right at 13.5. So that was the wild guess. That also lined up pretty well with, a little bit of resistance back here. Yeah, at the 200-day SMA. So, okay, my friends, well, it doesn't look like we got any other charts to look at today. It's all red across the board here. Another carnage day in crypto land, followed on the back of a 2-day alt season. So we'll see how that goes here. But I'm thinking we get a little bit of a bounce first, and then we'll go from there. What's the current price here? 84.70. Kind of all over the place here earlier. Looks like some of these exchanges are starting to catch up here. So we've got basically 84.90 on Coinbase, 84.70, 84.50. So it's starting to normalize a little bit. For a while there, for a brief moment there, they were about plus or minus 300 bucks. So see where that goes. So on the way up, very short term, if you're looking at the bounce action here on the way up, using Binance as the exchange, basically that 9K 9100 is the first target. That's the 10 EMA on the 1 hour chart up to around 9400. That also lines up with that $9,300 level that was really this breakdown support level. And so bounces into that would be the first kind of major resistance test to be watching on the way up. So if you're looking for a bounce trade, looking at targets, that's the first kind of zone I'd be watching on the way up. And as I said, I did take some buys here for some bounce action. We'll see how that plays out. And let me see here. I'm thinking that's it. What do the alerts say? There's a couple of things that we show on the alerts. There's the combined market value. There's the proprietary BMI indicator. That's what that has here. And then on the move alerts, power pivot alerts, overbought, oversold alerts. These are all custom alerts, right? These are not like, you can do a lot of really good stuff just on TradingView if you use it. And I use it a lot. I mean, I set alerts all the time, price alerts. I look at trend line alerts. Like, so for example, on Link, yesterday, I had an alert that, to tell me, and if you have a buy order, for example, like a buy stop or a sell stop order, I always set alerts for that kind of stuff. But you can set alerts for everything. You can say, tell me when the RSI hits a certain level, tell me when price hits a certain level, when it crosses a moving average. I mean, you can pretty much do all that. So if you're just looking for like manual alerts, I would suggest using TradingView, because you've already got the chart, you're already looking at it. You can just very quickly drop a chart, say, give me an alert when this is crossing up or crossing down, once per bar, once per minute, once per close, on the app, send me an email. I mean, it gives you all that ability. Just very nice, very handy. I do it all the time, right? Alerts on moving averages, alerts on RSI levels, whatever. And then you can have ongoing alerts that just don't expire. So you can say every time something happens, tell me. But the alerts that we send out these are almost, I guess you could say, like a screener, right? These are like screeners more than anything, right? So we've got automated watch lists here. So that's based on the proprietary BMI indicator, all that stuff. So this kind of does the looking for you. But if you have something in mind that you want to look at, then I would say set your own alert on TradingView. And if you really like to, I would suggest even looking at strategy alerts and all that stuff, like I've got here, where you can do stuff like, I've got this proprietary indicator, for example, and you can set strategies around that, and that's what the little markers are on my chart. And then if I wanted to, I can even say put an alert on the strategy when I get a BMI buy or a BMI close long or close short. So for example, if I says BMI close long, send me an alert, and then boom, and that'll just, anytime the strategy triggers, it tells you. Good stuff out there. And I know I'm behind on it. I promised the TradingView tutorial series here on this channel. I will post that. I'm still working on it. I had a delay last week because I got the cold, and I was still able to work, but my voice was shot, so obviously you don't want to hear me record when I'm sounding like a frog. Tesla. Tesla with the smackdown today as well. Yeah, and you know, I don't know. As far as like Tesla long term, I don't know. Most of my stock stuff, it's all very short term. So like swing trading, long term investment stuff, I'm probably not your guy for that kind of stuff here. I would suggest looking at other resources. When I was doing a little bit more longer term hold or swing trades, I was primarily looking at growth stocks anyway. Favorite resource of mine is Investors Business Daily. They've got the IBD 50, the IPO leaders list, all that stuff. And that's, you know, and actually that's where they highlighted Tesla way back in the day when it was, you know, way back here when it's doing its high type flag, that initial move off of 40, 50 bucks. So that's when it came on my radar back here. But as far as longer term holds and all that, I would look at them. IBD is really good if you're into the stock side. Okay, that's going to do it for today, guys. Hang tight. Hodl on. We'll see how this plays out. I think we're certainly due for a little bit of a bounce. After the bounce, what happens is anyone's guess. So you guys know the levels that I'll be watching. And thanks for being here as always. We'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.